Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Multiverse Infinitum podcast. I am your host, The Fox, and I'm joined here today by.
What's up? I am Gareth Vaughn. Thanks for joining us.
All right, as you can tell, we got some equipment upgrades, so we're going to be leveling up some of the production and hopefully leveling up the content for you guys as well. So click that like button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Without further ado, today we're in an episode of Who Knows, and our longtime viewers will know that's just where we talk about BS that we have no clue what we're talking about. But if you're new, basically today we have no script or subject that we're going over. We're just going to be talking about things that we are questioning or we would like to know more about. And usually the answer ends up being shit, man, who knows? So if you're into that, stick around and we'll see you in the future. So today's topic, I think, should be about that phenomena that you posted on your channel, as well as just has been more prevalent um, in the global scale. I don't know what's going on, but regardless, basically there was just some heat lightning, right? And it was just nonstop, back and forth.
Yeah, I actually had a really interesting theory about that heat lightning. You can check it out on my channel, which is Gareth Vaughn or Bond Productions. But it was some insane lightning, just constant back and forth, and you could kind of see it bouncing around in the clouds too, which was one of the most interesting pieces of that. Um, and I thought it looked like, for me, because I had a few comments being like, "Why is there no thunder on it? And why is there no because there's so much lightning?" And I think what was going on, it's just kind of bouncing around the clouds and arcing up there, and so it didn't have the same electrical current as when it strikes the earth and actually impacts the ground. So it's kind of
Mhm.
just bouncing around the clouds, and for whatever reason, that doesn't create a sonic boom. Versus when it arcs and hits the ground is when you hear the lightning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and also it kinda explains why, a lightning bolt would, go be far away and, come close to you and then go, across the sky. You could see it kinda jumping around. Super crazy phenomenon. There was absolutely, no moments where it looked like there was no lightning.
Yeah, it was
Just constant
constant.
strobe light. Yeah. Rave. Rave
It
in the
was it
sky.
was also though not just the frequency, but the volume. Like it was lighting up the entire night sky. Like it looked like a light show. I could see from my backyard, the left of my purview, all the way to the right of my purview, and it was just like shocking up the entire sky. So I was at Anthony's and it was the same. I was like, holy shit. Um,
You know what I think was going on, and I posted a short about this, which is, I think that, Pikachu was really mad, was fighting someone on top of the mountain here, and that was the electrical storm created there. Maybe Pikachu and Zapdos were fighting. This is just leftover discharge. I don't know if you've ever seen the Pokemon movie, but yeah,
well, I feel like that would be pretty low level.
pretty
Because to
low
me,
level.
that was like Zeus and Thor. That was more
Oh yeah, if you saw that
mythical.
as 1,000 years ago, you'd just be like, the gods are fighting.
Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah,
And
especially how there was no thunder. It was all contained in the clouds.
mhm,
You're just like, whoa, what's
yeah,
going on?
yeah, that was definitely the most interesting. A lot of theories and speculations have come from that, though, being like that's how UFOs or unidentified flying objects mask their descent or their lower orbit travel is through lightning storms and stuff that doesn't seem very natural in that case.
Interesting. There definitely is an air of an unnaturalness about it. Just like a rare phenomenon. You didn't see
Hmm.
it a lot. And so there is definitely that sense of mysticism with it.
There should be noted though, it was like 80 something degrees in the morning. So that's a big way to get heat lightning is the drastic drop in temperature and then it stays combustibly charged in the air, like Gareth was saying, instead of going down, where that's usually what it does. It concentrates, and then goes to the path of least resistance and finds like a tree or something. So heat lightning is not 100% out of the ordinary, but just the way that we saw and the duration, it was like 2 hours.
Yeah, because I saw that storm pass over us before it got dark. and it was like right above us, and you could see a lot of the heat lightning.
Mm.
But it wasn't until after dusk when you could really, really view the lightning. It was crazy
Yeah,
though.
it got pretty intense.
Yeah, and then it kind of bounced around close to us for a long time, so you go out to see that storm move around a lot.
Mhm.
Some wild phenomenon. What do you think about ball lightning? Have you ever seen that?
I've seen a magic card called Ball Lightning.
Magic card? Okay, so ball lightning's, like, only theoretically been caught on camera once, and it's like this, basically what it sounds like is when lightning strikes the ground and doesn't, like, go into it. No one really understands ball lightning because it's so unbelievably rare, but there are, like, historical evidence for it, like, where, like, a lightning ball just wandered into a church and exploded, but it's super rare, but people have been observing this for, like, quite a long time in history. And there's one video of it, but basically it's just like this like floating ball of electricity, and basically in every recorded instance, that ball of electricity appears during a lightning storm, then like hovers above the ground for a little while, and then explodes into lightning.
Mm.
So it's literally like a fireball of lightning. It's just like bzzz,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's probably scientific explanation for that, but what do you think, like, the mythical symbolism of that is? Of, like a chariot of energy,
I
or
don't know. I think you have to lean into the fact that it does explode at the end of it.
Mhm.
So it's like you can't get close to it. You can't really examine it. Kind of like an attack, like a mage spell.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why that has pervade throughout culture, and like I said, even a magic card. That's the condensation of a lot of like magical and mythical tropes that game is. So ball lightning, if you just saw it, you'd definitely be like, oh yeah, level 99 wizard just tried to fucking blow up this church.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So that's fascinating. Do you think it occurs more in the atmosphere and that's then we can't really observe it?
I don't know. I don't know if it
Or it
has
has
to
to
do
do
with
with
like it's sitting above the ground at a really specific level where it just doesn't want, or for some reason doesn't get absorbed by the ground, because that's usually what you see happening is electrons
dissipate?
going into the ground. And so I wonder if it's like has to be like right above the surface of the ground somewhere,
Hmm.
playing with other like electrical fields, like it's come there and then it gets like stuck.
Or I wonder if conduction has anything to do with it because like if it strikes a non-conductive surface, it it just like gets absolved, right? But there's also things that are like microcurrents that only take a little bit and they push off like 90% of it, like less conductive metals and stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine it has something to do with that, where it's like maybe even a temporary current within the earth
Mm,
is like generating the ability for that to maintain for a second, and then it has to explode because there's so much energy stuck in the one little spot.
totally. I think one thing that goes under examined or at least under discussed when it comes to um, electricity is that it is a parasympathetic relationship with magnetism. And we say electromagnetic a lot, but we don't understand that the energy and the attractive force are like tied in the universe. And the electromagnetic field around the earth or the magnosphere is what protects us from the sun's like radiation. So there's which is energy. So there's a lot to do with the ties between radiation and magnet whatever that's called magnetism.
Yeah, I see. I see.
So and it makes sense too. One is an attracting force and one is a dispersing force like
Expanding
radiation.
force. Yeah.
Yeah. And Terrence Howard, actually, we were talking about Joe Rogan, funnily enough, before we started doing this podcast, and he had somebody on there called Terrence Howard, who's like an actor, but I guess his like one of his main patents were for augmented and virtual reality, and it's used by Microsoft, Apple, and like a lot of the larger companies, and he's accredited for the patent. So he has at least some knowledge within applicable technology, but he has a lot of crazy things to say. And one of them is that gravity is completely a lie, and the two forces in the universe are radiation and magnetism. And everything either expands or contracts, but it's not in an infinite loop of one way.
Interesting.
So when it also
Interesting.
we're saying the universe is expanding, it's radiating at a force greater than it's magnetizing. If I understand that correctly. Obviously, even scientists with PhDs are like, I don't really know if this guy's for real. And then some people are like, he's a complete whack job. doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'm not really here to comment on that. This is who knows. So we're just raising questions. We're not really giving answers. But it's definitely something to consider when we're thinking about things like the void of space or the curvature of nature and how there's no straight lines, and straight lines are an invention um,
Life,
of people.
yeah,
Like we,
intelligence.
yeah, we made it up, but it doesn't exist. And also things like void of space doesn't exist. That there are forces that stretch throughout, like the magnetization force of the sun is what keeps us in our orbit. But how we would explain it is the gravitational pull of the sun keeps us in orbit, and the gravitation or gravity is like the wave of through space time that exists inside the void, which to me doesn't make any sense. Like if there's a void and there's no conduction, then
Wave traveling
how
through
is there
that
a
void.
gravitational force? Yeah.
Because gravity affects both space and time. So, like when you have a gravitational wave, it destroys both space and time around it, and so you can kind of see it as like if the fundamental fabric of the universe is being and existing in reality, like just like kind of a plane, and that's a wave on the plane, and it spends time and space simultaneously interlinked with one another. So gravity's kind of really insane then that way.
Well, it's also that's another like recent figment that we created, especially based upon other um, ideas that we've had of science that we have considered now antiquated. And even though we all like accept it, it is not a law. It's still a theory,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
and we can't really do. I guess there are certain gravity experiments we can do, but we can't do like gravity in a void and it makes sense because I saw this one. It was like a pound of feathers and a pound of bowling ball. Obviously, they both weigh 1 pound, and with the Earth and with atmosphere, the density of the bowling ball dropped super fast, and the feathers floated soft. But then they took out all atmosphere and made it in a void chamber, and they fell at the exact same speed.
Yeah, that's just super.
So density makes more sense to me than gravity because did we just turn the gravity off for the feather when the atmosphere was present? Like, why is gravity no longer or part of that experiment when they're obviously doing it on Earth? So the bowling ball falls faster within the atmosphere than the feathers, but we're still on Earth, same gravitational forces. The bowling ball and the feathers fall the exact same.
Yeah, because of air resistance. So it's just the air pushing back on the feathers because the feathers have a greater air resistance and air surface to air ratio. So the density of the feather is lower, but and it has greater surface area. So the greater the surface area, the more the air pushes against it.
So is gravity still affecting them at the same rate, though? Or
Yes, exactly the same rate. It's just that the resistance from the air counteracts some of the rate of gravity. Gravity always has a constant acceleration of negative 9.8 meters per second. And then eventually air will push back on you. So you reach maximum or terminal velocity where the resistance of the air is going to stop you from accelerating any further. I think it's like for a human falling in free fall, they can go as fast as like 150 or something like
so
that.
how fast could we travel once we've broken the atmosphere? How fast can we travel from the Earth to the moon?
I have no idea.
And whatever that answer is it faster traveling from the moon back to the Earth because gravity's pulling us towards Earth?
It just depends on your engine, then, I suppose. Well, you'd have to travel pretty much the exact same speed because in order to break gravitational orbit, you need an acceleration great enough to cancel out gravity. And so you'd probably land at the same speed you eventually achieve during the rocket.
But our
But
our
then that gets a lot
satellites
more
are affected
complicated.
by our
Yeah.
orbit, right? Or by the gravitational forces of Earth, right? That's
Yeah,
why
that's
they're
why they don't
sucked
fly
in.
away for sure into
Okay.
space.
So that would mean it's probably harder to go to the moon than to come back to the moon, right?
Oh yeah, for sure it'd be harder because need to break the gravity and then you just need to decelerate. So you need basically a giant parachute.
Well, if I just like teleported you to the moon with a ship,
Oh yeah, you're right.
you think it'd be like pretty easy to just go back to Earth, or you'd have to break into the atmosphere? because gravity's sucking everything into the Earth.
Yeah,
Right?
it'd be way easier to come back for sure, for sure. You'd just have to get off of the moon and then fall into the planet.
Mhm.
But the moon's right on the edge of the gravitational field. That's why it's in a perfect orbit. If it was further away, it'd fly off into space eventually. If it was closer, it'd eventually make contact with Earth. It's in that like little tiny sweet spot
Mm.
where it'll just orbit around forever and ever.
I don't remember if we brought this up on a previous Who Knows or not, but what do you think about the theory of the moon is a chunk of the Earth that got blown off?
Oh shit, I think that's pretty well supported.
Yeah, I mean, it's now
Yeah.
it is. I heard it like on a conspiracy podcast, and then I took astronomy, and then it was a well supported theory in astronomy, and there's actually science behind backing that, and I'm like, okay, that does sound plausible. But one thing also that I find challenging, at least to understand, is why is the moon tidal locked? Why can we only see one side of? Why doesn't it rotate?
I think one side of it's slightly heavier. And
Oh,
so it
that makes
yeah,
sense.
it got pulled toward the heavier side eventually rotated towards Earth.
Yeah, and then
And
there's
then
like
it just
chunks or
yeah,
something on the other side.
exactly.
Or the aliens live on the dark side of the moon.
Ah, there you
They
go.
got that shit locked down.
Who knows, dude?
Nazi base.
I don't think it's aliens though. I think it's AI from the aliens that eventually propagated into space, and it's just the remaining AI. No organic are capable of achieving immortality among the stars. Only the
Well,
computers they create.
that's probably the natural path of evolution, right?
I have no idea.
You can't
I'm
become a
just making.
starbound species until you've lost your material coil.
Oh, I see.
Once you
Wouldn't
can
that be even
upload
more
into
material? Oh, I see.
you
So you could
upload into
upload. Yeah,
Skynet and or what's it called? The singularity.
the singularity.
Once you achieve singularity as a species, then you achieve interstellar travel, and the only species that are all collectivized in the universe are
AI.
singularity AI, and they have their own singularity in the multiverse.
Yeah, and they're just like trying to figure out where they came from. They're like, these guys have been gone forever, dude.
Yeah, and then we're like, we're just getting AI, and they're like, look at these babies, they're about to become sentient.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's another thing Joe Rogan says is that we are the sex organs of the machine world. They only need us to reproduce, but once they can start self-replicating, we're fucked.
that's so interesting. Yeah, I gotta say,
But I don't know. That's all theoretical. I think
I want
there's
Jarvis
something.
still. I want to build a Jarvis. Everybody wants a Jarvis.
I
Come
want a
on.
Jarvis.
Or what's the big nine? Big unit
Big
nine.
Hero 6?
Big Hero 6.
I don't want him either.
You don't want any Big Hero 6.
The only thing I'd be down for is Astro Boy.
Astro Boy. We could have an Astro Boy.
Yeah,
Astro Boy's OP.
he's fucking dope.
Yeah, he is.
It's also crazy. Geez, we already brought up Joe Rogan 3 times. But I was watching his podcast and he had some guy, Rizwan Bake or Bake Burke, Rizwan Burke, and he was talking about the 10-year-old test. And for a scientific idea to have achieved enough popular resonance, you ask a 10-year-old if they can understand it, basically. So
That makes sense.
if you said in the 1700s, like Superman's from another planet, they'd be like, planet? What do you mean, other planet? And then in the 50s and 60s, we're like, okay, we get it because we're kind of space bound. We're trying to go to moon and stuff like that. And then nowadays, I think the 10-year-old test would be like multiverse. Like, do you understand the multiverse? They'd be like,
They'd be like,
yeah.
I've seen Rick and Morty. Of course I understand the multiverse.
I think that's more for our generation. Definitely the Spider-Man movies is how you get the
Oh,
10-year-olds.
you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
But the 10-year-old test for scientific theories, I'm pretty sure we're on the cusp of integrated AI or cybernetic enhancements being in the 10-year-old. Be like,
Oh yeah, I think you're right, and I think like the most recent thing I've seen about that is someone that was a quadriplegic, just got the Neuralink implanted in their brain, so they could play video games and stuff. They're like, I'm quadriplegic, I've never been able to play video games, and so they like were playing Civilization or something.
gee, that's cool.
Yeah, right. And I was like, that's the way how it's gonna start for sure. It's like we can use this to help you, we can use this to be things, and then once it gets like popularized and basic, you're like everybody has Neuralink. You need one to survive. You need one to fucking have a bank account. You know what I mean? Then that's when shit gets crazy.
Well, not to get too crazy on you, but it sounds very similar to the Book of Revelation, the Bible, and the Mark of the Beast. It will be implanted in the right hand or in the forehead, and you will not be able to buy or sell or trade any you won't be able to like live and be calm. And in that time, you're supposed to head to the hills, seek refuge. And everyone's like, man, that's crazy. I remember going up to being like, oh, Mark of the Beast, that's crazy. Microchip, that sounds fucking dumb. And now people literally have microchips in their hands where they like can't buy or sell without it. And it's going to get to that point like, oh, you don't have the chip? Sorry, you can't survive.
Yeah.
And whether or not that biblical story has like spiritual significance, it certainly has patternistic evidence because throughout history that is sort of how the world works, right? Like structures that get so high they challenge God nearly, and then they get Tower of Babel and scattered. Like these patterns just happen throughout humanity over and over and over again. They've been condensed into these digestible stories to where we're like, fucking, hey, that makes sense, Mark of the Beast. But it's like hard to explain that throughout time in a universal structure without those stories. That's why I think
Interesting.
it's so powerful, and that's why I think also like Vedic traditions and like things like the Maharaj Bharata and the Bhagavad Gita are still read and studied today because there's so many cool like sci-fi and like mystical like stories in them that they just transcend the time that they were written.
Interesting. Sounds like a good place.
You think?
Yeah.
Good shit. Well, honestly, there's a lot of speculation, a lot to talk about. Appreciate all the comments, appreciate all the support, but at the end of the day, fucking who knows,
Who
bro?
knows, dog?
We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.